Deep inside the tabernacle, just before the veil, stood a smaller altar. It was not used for sacrifices. No animals were offered here. Instead, something far more gentle rose from the sacred place: fragrant incense. Day after day, a priest would approach this altar with a cloud of sweet aroma offered towards heaven. But this altar was not designed by human creativity. Like every sacred object in the tabernacle, its design came directly from God. Today, we follow the instructions of Scripture and watch the altar of incense take shape, just as it was described. In Exodus 30, verse 1, God says, "You shall make an altar to burn incense on it. You shall make it out of acacia wood." This altar was smaller compared to the others: 1 cubit long, 1 cubit wide, 2 cubits high. Simple in size, yet positioned in one of the most sacred places in the sanctuary. It stood directly before the veil, the boundary between the holy place and the most holy place. This altar was at the threshold of God's presence. The altar began with acacia wood, a material known for its strength and resistance to decay. In the wilderness, durability mattered. This wood formed the body of the altar, solid, stable, and prepared to carry something sacred. Acacia wood represents humanity, frail yet chosen. God builds his dwelling not on perfection, but on what he strengthens. Exodus 30 verse 3 says, "You shall overlay with pure gold." Once the structure was built, it was completely covered in gold. The ordinary was clothed with the precious, and the altar shone in the light of the tabernacle. This is the picture of transformation. What is natural becomes glorified when covered by God. At each corner of the altar were small projections called horns. Exodus tells us, "The horns shall be of one piece with it." These horns were not separate decorations. They were carved from the same structure. In Scripture, horns often symbolize strength, authority, and power. They remind Israel that what happened here carried spiritual weight. Around the top edge of the altar was a decorative border. Scripture calls it a crown of gold, a ring of beauty surrounding the altar. Even the smallest details were designed with care. In God's dwelling place, every element reflects purpose and honor. Exodus 30 verse 4 says, "You shall make 2 golden rings for it on 2 of its sides." These rings were not merely ornamental, they were functional, designed to hold the poles used to carry the altar. This meant the altar was mobile. Whenever Israel moved, the altar moved. God's presence is not and was not confined to a building or limited to one location. He journeyed with his people. He did it then, and he still does it now. Then came the poles. Just like the altar, they were made of acacia wood and overlaid with gold. They were inserted through the rings so the altar could be lifted and carried. Nothing in the tabernacle was ever treated casually. Every movement required reverence. Every step demanded honor. This altar had one purpose: incense, continually. Every morning, every evening. Exodus 30 verse 7 to 8 says, "Aaron shall burn on it sweet incense, a perpetual incense before the Lord." Throughout Scripture, incense becomes a powerful symbol. It represents prayer. In Psalms 141 verse 2 we read, "Let my prayer be set before you as incense." Just as incense rolls upward, prayer rises upward towards God. Quiet words, hidden tears, silent hopes, all lifted heavenward to our Father. Centuries later, we see a powerful fulfillment. The book of Revelation reveals something beautiful. In Revelation chapter 8, verses 3 to 4, an angel stands before God with a golden altar, and we read, "The smoke of the incense and the prayers of the saints ascend before God." The altar in the tabernacle was always pointing forward to a greater reality. The prayers of God's people continually rising before Him. Our prayers are not lost. They are stored, carried, and presented in heaven. There is a real altar right now where your prayers are still rising. And at the center of that access stands Jesus. Because through him, our prayers are not rejected. They are welcomed before God. He is the one who brings us near. A small altar made of wood covered in gold, standing quietly before the veil. Day after day, night after night, a fragrant cloud would arise. But its meaning reaches far beyond the wilderness. It reminds us every prayer offered in faith rises before God, like incense carried upward into his presence. Thank you for journeying with me as we explored Exodus 30. Shalom.